Hello, my name is Jonathan Mawdsley, and I'm with the USGS Cooperative Fish and Wildlife Research Unit program. And I'm here to talk to you today about native bee monitoring and potential contributions from the US Geological Survey. A little bit about USGS. We are the official science and research arm within the Department of Interior, the department's science agency. We have over 8,600 employees across the country. We are divided into a number of research divisions, of which ecosystems, which contains all of our biological science capacity, is the largest. Within ecosystems, our scientists tend to be divided between the Cooperative Research Unit program, which is the program that I administer, and the science centers, which are scattered around the country. Many of you are familiar with our bee lab, which is housed at our Eastern Ecological Science Center. Another important thing to realize about biological science at USGS is that most of our programs actually originated in the Fish and Wildlife Service and were transferred to USGS in the 1990s. So we tend to have a lot of work on migratory birds because of that original focus with the US Fish and Wildlife Service, and we tend to also focus primarily on vertebrates in our research programs. However, that being said, there's a tremendous amount of work going on invertebrates and specifically native bees within USGS. There's also work going on within our Northern Prairie and Eastern Ecological Science Centers on honeybees. We've been doing a lot of work on monitoring inventories and the process and how you design and implement monitoring and inventory for native bees at a number of our centers with a number of our principal investigators. So that's really been a major focus of work at USGS on native bees. Also point out that we've been doing a lot of work with molecular studies, not just of the bees themselves, but also of pollen. We have a deep bench strength and a long history of working on contaminants, going all the way back to the days of Rachel Carson and studies of lead in wildlife. And so this is something that USGS and our predecessors at the Fish and Wildlife Service have a long history of working on. I also point out that USGS currently maintains both global and national databases of native bee species. Liz Sellers, who I think many of you know, is the point person for bee taxonomy within ITIS, the Integrated Taxonomic Information System. She also maintains the databases for our native bee lab. And we've also been playing a role in coordination within the Department of Interior on pollinator conservation at a larger scale. Ann Kinzinger, who is the Assistant Director for Ecosystems, co-chairs the department's pollinator coordinating group. And I've also been associated with that group, and I can also conduct my own research on primarily on the genus Xylocopa, but also on other pollinators, particularly in southern Africa. So a little bit more about our native bee lab. I think many of you are familiar with Sam Droege and his work on native bees over the last 20 years now. The lab is devoted entirely to support. It is not primarily a research facility. It's designed to provide support to the broader community of folks who are interested in monitoring, inventorying, and surveying native bees. We now have a co-lead from the US Fish and Wildlife Service, Claire Maffey, who has joined Sam within the last year to be helping to expand our capacity within the lab. And we're looking to bring on additional capacity from other federal and state partners as well in the next couple of years. The lab is really specialized in a number of products, including the development of techniques for surveying, inventorying, and monitoring native bees, the production of identification guides, all of which are freely available through the discoverlife.org website. Within the last year, Claire and Sam have been offering a series of online bee identification classes, which are all archived and available, I believe, through the YouTube channel for the Native Bee Lab. They are offered live Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and everyone is invited to participate. The lab also has a number of handy manuals, not just for bee identification, but on materials and methods for how to conduct bee survey and inventorying activities. And then the lab is also available for consultations with prospective partners, including both academic, federal, state, tribal, and nonprofit and for-profit entities. And we are certainly welcome interest and engagement from anyone who has an interest in learning more about our methods and our techniques and recommendations for how to move forward with actual on-the-ground projects that are going to involve bee inventory, survey, and monitoring. We're currently working on techniques for bee plant use techniques, identifying or finding those, developing advanced databases there. And Sam and colleagues are in the process of implementing a large bumblebee survey methodology in the northeastern states and looking simultaneously at floral use among these bees to really get a better sense of what flowering plants are being used by the bees and how best to restore habitat for declining bumblebee species in the Northeast. The lab over the past 20 years has generated a database with over 650,000 individual bee specimen records that is all freely available. We are a public service, we are the government, and we are actually here to help. Those data are available from Sam or through Liz Sellers, whoever you feel like reaching out to. Be happy to provide those. And then another service that we provide is specimen preparation. We have a whole team of volunteers who can prepare specimens, mount them, label them, and then also conduct IDs for groups. Again, all sectors, academic, nonprofits, federal, state, local governments, et cetera, tribal clients. We're more than happy to find a way to try to work with you. So as far as the future goes, there are a number of things that we're looking to do. We recognize that we are in a sort of hot spot, if you will, for pollinator conservation activities. The members of our lab include a number of folks who are affiliated with the Smithsonian Institution, including Sam Droege, myself, Don Harvey, who's a retired curatorial staff from the Smithsonian, and others. And we're looking for ways to curate and enhance the National Collection of Bees, which is currently downtown at the Smithsonian. We are looking at ways to rapidly database and inventory particular target taxa within that collection, as well as getting the entire collection upgraded and databased and inventoried. We are also having some very exciting conversations with a wide spectrum of partners about the development of a joint interagency pollinator center housed at the Patuxent Research Refuge, possibly involving the construction and development of a brand new facility which would be able to house collections as well as office space, classroom space, and laboratory space. We're looking at ways to support increased coordination across the Department of Interior's bureaus and be able to support coordination with our colleagues at USDA and other federal agencies. And we're also thinking about expanding out to other pollinator groups, recognizing that there are needs for good methods for surveying, inventorying, and monitoring other pollinator taxa. I myself have been involved in work with beetles. I know we also have other colleagues who are very interested in flies and other taxa that are perhaps not as widely inventoried and monitored as native bees or certainly butterflies and moths, but we definitely have an interest in conducting good science and good research in order to be able to expand our capacity. So that's a little bit about the U.S. Geological Survey. I would certainly invite you to contact myself, Jonathan Mawdsley, or Sam Droege at the USGS Bee Lab. We are housed in person at the Patuxent Research Refuge in Laurel, Maryland. You are always welcome to stop by and visit. We have a fantastic facility now with collection space that's being renovated, offices, and also outdoor demonstration and gardens and so forth, where we can conduct all sorts of very interesting field studies. So with that, I'll conclude my very brief overview and presentation. Thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to working with you.